10.5 or 10 3/4. So I'm gonna cut 3 options and see which let's see which. How it comes out. Take notes. Another thing I was going to mention is I have a pattern in hand goods notebook, because I've been trying and making things for several years now. I always like to note things and tweak things. It's basically kind of my ideas and reference book that also has me keep my ideas there, but also when I do try something, I write my notes there and what I like and what I don't like. So next time I could be like, oh, why did I use that size elastic? That's another thing. I'm not going to use thin elastic, this size that I'm going to use. I got this when I lived in the Middle East, so it's awesome. There was such a great deal. This is your 1-inch elastic. Okay, so I like this because I want it to be super thick and secure, as it's going to be an oversized yoga mat scrunchie. So I feel like that'll give me a lot of space to really make sure it holds and doesn't slip, and also is quite secure. That's my goal. Also, another round I'm going to try, maybe after this video, after I perfect this scrunchie, I'm going to add a zipper into it, because I feel like that will be so functional. I know when I go do hot yoga or Pilates or stretching with my mat, the one thing I run into the gym with a lot is like my keys and my wallet. And I don't always like to use the lockers. And so I feel like having a little zipper can also be big enough for you to like throw your keys in there real quick. Depending on how big it is, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. Maybe big enough for your phone to fit in. But this fabric is not stretchy. It's definitely like a non-stretch cotton. So one thing to do is, like, obviously if I wanted it to fit a phone, I can also buy fabric that's a little bit more forgiving and stretchy that will allow it to like scrunch up in there but not look too bulky or too, it would be more secure. It would be like kind of holding it, because I feel like if I put a phone in a big scrunchie, it's just going to weigh it down. So it needs to be kind of like that Liverpool fabric that's very thick and quilted. But if you guys have other ideas for me to try that, let me know. I haven't decided, once I do this, if I'm going to add it to my shop or not, or even like when I do events. It will see how much fabric it takes to make this. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to go back in and do a second round, which is basically a test of the Yoga-Mat Scrunchie with the repurposed fabric I found at the thrift store. It is a duvet cover. It's an orange and pink. I love it. I gave it a good wash. The first round, I did do the yoga scrunchie, and I found out a couple of tweaks that I wanted to do. So this time around, I wanted to for sure make my size larger. So I'm now doing it, instead of an 8 by 72, I am now doing a 10 by 72. So 10 inches wide by 72 inches long. I also use a 1-inch thick elastic at 10 inches. That gives me the flexibility to hold a thin scrunchie and also the thick yoga scrunchie mat. So it is meant to be an oversized. The thing I'm going to do differently on this one, aside from doing, I start with sewing the short sides together. By doing the right sides together, I added my label at that point. And that's kind of a way that I've been doing my scrunchies in general. This is different from my normal way of doing scrunchies. I usually do them after I sew the label in. I then do the burrito method to close up, and then I leave a little seam allowance to add in the elastic, which usually I don't use a 1-inch elastic. This time I'm using a thicker elastic for security. But what I do this time is, after I sew it this side together, I then iron the edge in.
So basically in about 1/4 of an inch of the wrong sides together in all the way around on both sides. Then I put in those 2 seams and I sew them closed like this. So basically the casing will be kind of a flatter edge, and that's what gave the scrunchie a different look. I actually like that for the yoga scrunchie. This time around, I'm going to use a binding for this on the outside to kind of add like a trim so that it kind of stands out, and I'm kind of curious to see how it looks for that. In my next video, I'm going to do a different fabric, but with a zipper. I might use this fabric because I can do all 3 options with this. I'm going to add a zipper in the last option instead of the binding. So I'm going to go back. Once I really figure out the size, I'll be able to know if I like the 10-inch look or if I think that it's just too big. But yeah, that's where I'm at now. So I already went ahead and I cut the fabric. The next step I'm going to do is to add in my label and then iron it down. So I will come back and check in on different spots, but that's where we're at. Okay, so right here I take my label and I basically just press it down with my finger. When I make a label, I always make sure that there's a bit of lip here because I use this for whenever I have to place in the tag. In my scrunchies, they usually stick out, and it's good to have it double-sided. So that's what I tend to do. I like it in full color, and that's that. After I do that, I take my fabrics right sides together and I line them up as best I can. And then as I'm sewing halfway down, that's when I add in the logo. So I'll go ahead and show you how I do that. So, and I usually just center my needle. I always prefer to do that unless I'm doing a zipper. And I usually do it at a 2-inch, just because I really want to make sure this seam is secure. And that's pretty important to me. And so I line it up on both sides so that there's no mismatched fabric when I go. And then you'll see later how you keep it lined up. So I go back over here, and actually it's not lined up, so we go again. So you want to make sure it's lined up really, really well. And that'll really just help later not have any overhang or mismatched lines. And typically there isn't a setting in here to automatically go back, but because this machine stitch length only goes up to 850, I like to control it myself. I go typically now at the fastest speed with a 3/4 seam allowance. When I get about halfway through, this is where I like to add in my label. And again, I just pressed it, so I'll press it again. I lift up my presser foot, I lift this open, and I check where my needle's at, and I line this up exactly where I want it to go over. So I usually line it up with the edge, and then I put the fabric right back on top. Make sure that it's straight, press the foot down, and I go over this slower. And because this has also like a foot control, I can go slower. And then once I know it's done, I just go to the end, always back stitch, and then I cut it. And then moment of truth is I always like to open it up and see how it looks. And there it is, really good. So that's that piece. Okay, so next I'm gonna go to my machine. This is the right side, this is the wrong side. I fold in that about 3/4 of an inch, and I sew it on both sides, that amount. And so that's going to be the next step. Okay, and then an update. I did iron it, but this time I decided instead of folding it in and sewing it, I am actually going to add the binding right over that's what I would have folded in because I'm hiding it anyway. So I want to see how this comes out. Again, doing this, you have to line it up super carefully. This is only like a 1/2 inch binding, which means there isn't a lot of space. So I've been taking this, lining it up very carefully. I am not going too fast on this one, so I just go super slow and I make sure that it's straight. I tuck in any threads, and when I go to where my finger is, that's when I know to stop and readjust. So I'm just going to keep doing this for a bit and then see how that comes out. If you guys have other suggestions, let me know. I've considered also using like fold over elastic, which would have a little stretch to it. But I thought I still wanted to try this look and see how it comes out. If this ends up being like not a good look, then I'm probably going to try the fold over elastic. And that's the thing with like testing patterns. You're always kind of playing with the mixes. But if you can see, like this binding like matches perfectly with the pink. That's exactly what I wanted. And so I think it's a good option here. I also think that it's important that you don't go, and you can also check as you're going, like, okay, yeah, it's catching the bottom, because that's really important. I think it's coming out really good because this is 72 inches. It's pretty long, but I have a whole lot of this. So I'm really excited to use that. And I'll show you guys in a minute what it looks like. I will also take a video of what I do at the end, but I also wanted to share what I typically do when I'm pattern testing. I haven't filmed this. So this is my first time filming a series of stuff that I'm planning to make for the markets that I do in person. And I typically don't test it, but usually what I do during making things is watch YouTube. There is a lot of people that I've been inspired by on YouTube, and I will be sharing that along the way. I lost my mom to breast cancer last year in October. Even though she had cancer, it was sort of sudden because she was really doing well, and we were about to start a new natural treatment after she had been on some harsh chemo that wasn't working anymore. And so even before she passed, I was always into just gaining knowledge. And so one of the things I like to watch is the patient story, which tells a lot of stories of cancer patients and how they discover their diagnosis, and also how they are dealing with it, whether it's the treatment or other things along the process. So, oops, sorry guys. I don't like the way that looks, so I'm going to tuck it in just a little more right there. And since this is a test pattern, a test fabric, I'm not planning to sell this one, mostly because well, my daughter already confiscated the other scrunchie. I guess that scrunchie is super good for thick hair. My daughter has like a lot of hair, very thick. So she likes it a lot. So she's actually going to end up keeping that yoga scrunchie my first round. And then this one, we'll see. She'll probably want this too. But eventually I'm going to make more of these for the markets. But what I was saying is that I also find a lot of encouragement, but also a lot of knowledge, because I think a lot of times what I'm noticing is people who have lost others to cancer or diseases, there's been quite a period of stress that person has been under. And that usually heightens their chances of cancer. And you will find that a lot of people, caretakers, end up getting ill. And so I'm working on my stress level. I've been to therapy. This is part of a therapeutic healing for me. And then also Dr. Berg is another one that I watch on YouTube a lot. He is very knowledgeable on natural things. And I just think, in my mind, like, I don't want to wait till I have cancer to be more aware and knowledgeable. And also, I encourage that for my kids. I give them a lot of daily vitamins and things like that help. And so I just wanted to share that. But there is also a lot of small businesses I love to watch on YouTube, and I will be sharing them as well, just because I'm encouraged to just share the journey of making things, and also just, learn from my mistakes. And if it helps anyone else, or if you have helpful advice for me, because I for sure am no expert. I'm also quite aware that I'm not for everybody. I am naturally very extroverted. But what a lot of people don't share is that extroverts also face burnout quite quickly. So like I can go like a couple of weeks and just do events. I could do vendor events. I could do things with my kids, but I think I also need my downtime to recharge. And if I don't take it before it happens, I'll have like an emotional breakdown where, I just kind of shut down for a few days and kind of hibernate. So I don't know. Are there any other extroverts out there like that experience that? Of course, since my mom was sick and then she passed, I definitely noticed a change in my just overall energy and priorities. I'm definitely not, I don't take on as much as I used to in the same way. I mean, I definitely do vendor events, and I'm launching a business, don't get me wrong. So I do have energy I'm just about positive things that will encourage myself or others, goals that I've been putting off. That's for sure a big one, is just goals I've been putting off. I think we all can tend to do that and be like, oh, I'll do it one day. Well, I think if we have that mentality and think, hey, let's just try it today. And if we fail now, we learn now, right? We learn from our mistakes. Okay, so I think I've chatted a lot, but I just thought instead of just watching me, well, maybe you guys want to see the ending of how I end up this binding, which is right here. So I think I'm just going to cut it already where it's kind of already overlapped. So I'll cut it a little bit at an angle. Hope I didn't cut it too short. Okay, good. And so I let the two overlap. But again, all this thread I'm going to trim off later, so don't worry about that. And honestly, this couldn't have been a more perfect pink, which I'm super happy about. And since it's the end, I just want to make sure it lines up as good as nice as possible. So I'm going to hide that in there. We'll see. And maybe I'll cut that at the end. We'll see. But this has been a really fun process, like testing these patterns and showing you guys. I'm sorry my nails aren't done because I just didn't do them. I took off my acrylics like a couple weeks back, and my kids have been on break, so I haven't put them back on. Oh, sorry, my son is coming in. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. So I folded in the edge of the binding, and then I'm going to go over it very slowly because it's going to go over about like a couple layers of fabric right here. It's also going to be important to backstitch, and I just want to make sure it looks as good as possible. Again, I will perfect it as I go on. Okay, like I said, my kids are on summer break, so I closed it up without adding in the elastic. So I went back in, and that's one thing that's fun with sewing. You definitely have to be patient. And so I'm going to add in the 1-inch elastic in here, and then I'm going to close it up. So just give me a minute, but so far this is how it's looking. I think it came out really good. So we'll see how it looks with the 10-inch. And again, I'm going to add it in with my little tool here. I use the 1-inch elastic, and then I test it before I close it. So I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Okay, so here's my 1-inch thick elastic by 10 inches. I'm going to put it in, and then I'm going to sew the piece, overlap them and sew them closed like that. So again, it is pretty big, but it was meant to be that way, just like the other yoga mat. You find your opening, so it's right here, and then you feed it through. So you hold on to the edge. Make sure you're holding on to it because it's easy to lose that. And then as you go, just kind of hook it under. This really thick elastic's really easy to keep it straight. So that's kind of cool because at the end I can make sure that the elastic is pretty straight. It's not like twisted in there or anything. Which I don't know. I think it's just like a nice detail. I know that's kind of frustrating. I've also seen people where they get the elastic and they tie the ends. Obviously this is 1-inch elastic, so you cannot, I don't think you can do that with this size. However, if you were using thinner elastic for this, you could do that. So typically, you know, I wouldn't. But if you use thinner, I would. And the reason why I'm using thicker is because I want it secure on the yoga mat. So you just pull it through and it comes through. Then you just unlatch it. This tool's pretty awesome because I've never had it lose the elastic inside. Like it has never lost it. And this is from Clover, I believe. Yeah, Clover. And it's awesome. I can tag what this product is in the comments, or in the comments below. So now I'm going to fold it over. Going to change my machine to a zigzag stitch. I typically like to go wide, pretty wide, and actually I go thinner. So that's usually my 6.5 width, so it's wider. It captures more. Or, you know, you could just go straight. If you go straight, I do it in the center, and I typically do it at a 1 or 1.5 or 2. And then I just make sure to go up and down a few times. So I'll try it at the 1-inch so you guys can see. It might be hard to show you. Actually, it's kind of hard because I do like pull the elastic a lot. I get it right over where it's overlapping a bit. I just go back and forth a few times. And then I cut it and I do it again at the other edge. So you see, oh, that did not catch. Sometimes that happens. So I'm going to try again and see. Actually, I want to go back to the zigzag. I think for me, it's just I'm so used to doing zigzag. Oops. So I'll go back to the 6.5 and the 1.2. We'll try that. And usually I pull it a ton. Sorry guys, this is like my first time trying to film these process. And yeah, it's definitely like a labor of patience and finagling, because it does. I've heard someone say like they think that scrunchies are a lot of work for not a really great project. And so after making a lot, I think my daughters and I do enjoy making them. It's just so it's going very slowly. Okay, sorry guys. So it definitely captured this time. So there it is. So super secure. I do them super tight for that reason, but it still has amazing elasticity. And again, that's just showing you what works for me. It's always been the zigzag stitch when I attach elastics, or some people add a separate piece of fabric. This is my scrap. So like I would cut a piece of fabric behind it and then attach those both to each end and then cut off any excess. And that would be the attachment, would be by attaching each elastic to a piece of fabric and making sure the fabrics are connected. So now what I do is just fluff that out and make sure, I always like to make sure that this beautiful, oh my gosh, look at this scrunchie, guys. It's insane. It's so big. But I like it. I thought this was going to stick out a lot more, but it really just blends like so well. But this scrunchie is, I mean, huge. So if I measure it from one end to the other, just how it lays, it is roughly about 10 and it looks, wait, 11 inches when I just hold it and hang it. Sorry, I don't know if you guys can see. So yeah, it's about 11 inches. Okay, so I'm going to close it up now and I'll show you what it looks like after. Okay, so here's a close-up. Okay, so I haven't closed it yet, but I wanted to show you guys, you know, how I test it, how I look at it. I just kind of play with it and see if there's anything like I would change. I will compare these side by side with the other one and see if I don't like it or in comparison, and then try it on the yoga mats next. So okay, so I'm going to close up the scrunchie now that hopefully everything's done. I don't need to tighten the elastic. I think I'm happy with it. So I can try it on. It definitely fits like the other one, but you actually can't even see the gap because it's not as, I think, thin as the other one. This one's a lot thicker, a lot more fabric around. Okay, so here it is. Literally probably bigger than my head. So yeah, I don't even think you can see my head if I put this in front of it. So this is what it feels like here. So it still has the same kind of thick, like it's not tight on my wrist at all. Could you use this as a scrunchie? Like totally. Sorry, I don't know if you guys are gonna hear me. I may have lost you, but like totally. Sure. Excuse my crazy hair, but this is just to show you like this would be a quite excessive scrunchie, and this is wrapped around twice, so I'm sure my daughter is gonna love it, but I'm gonna try it on the scrunchies next, so I will be back with that. Okay, so this is the one I made the first round. Okay, it is still quite big. Okay, this is the new one. So you guys like the old one or the new one better? This, again, the elastic is basically the same size. They're about a 10-inch for both of them. Again, this one I added about 2 inches in the width. So this was 8 inches wide. So it's about 4 on each side. And this one is 10. And then this one I added the binding around, and this one I just folded and stitched across to give it more of like that wavy look than a regular scrunchie that has more of like a fluffy look when you do like the braiding method. Okay, so here is the thin yoga mat. Okay, and it is secure on there. So there's that one. That's a quite excessive scrunchie right there. Okay, I'm gonna put the other one on the other end and show you guys what that looks like. So this is the original one, this is the new one. What do you guys think? Do we like it with the binding? Do we like it with the extra 2 inches? Is it just too much? For me, I definitely like the larger one. I'm glad I went 2 inches. And I know it's for a very like niche client, you know, it's not for everyone. Okay, so I'm gonna try now the thicker. Here is the thicker yoga mat. Okay, so I'm going to put the old one on top or up here. I want to make sure this. Okay, so it goes on good. There's that. It's a little wrinkled because my daughter was already been using it for a few days. And then here is the new one. She's been using it on her hair. She likes it. So here is this one. I'm gonna put them side by side and show you guys. So again, maybe I should put it like this. The old one is up here. The new one is down here. They're both secure. Yep, they both fit. There's still room to pull it on and off. So what do you guys think? Okay, I personally think the bigger yoga mat scrunchie is, you know, I think I like it better. I'm going to try one more round with the thicker one with a zipper. So yeah, stay tuned. For the zipper one, I'm going to close it up like I did the original scrunchie because I'm going to be adding a zipper to that seam instead of a binding. So I hope you guys like this. Again, thank you for sticking around, and hope you guys come check out the next video next week.